Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. All right, so for this video, we'll be looking at systems of government in the Caribbean. So there were 4 systems of government that were used in the Caribbean, right? 2 are currently still in use. Good. So it started first with the old representative system in the 1600s, as you can see on the screen. Then it went on to the Crown Colony government in the 1800s, after which many countries wanted their independence, so they move on to independence while still holding aspects of the crown, and we call that system of government constitutional monarchy. Then some countries say, hey, we want to do away with the crown, right? And crown represents the monarch, which is the king or the queen. So they went to full independence. So they're functioning on their own fully, wholeheartedly now. So that system of government is called republicanism. All right. So now let us look at them in great details. So the old representative system, this system was implemented in the 1600s and did not cater to the slaves. This was more for the white people. So it didn't cater really to the slaves, the colored people, or the slaves who were able to purchase their freedom or who were given their freedom by their masters, right? This was made obvious because none of those mentioned, those are the slaves, free people of color, or the coloreds, right, had the right to participate in the election process. Neither did they have any right to participate in government. That was squarely reserved for the white, and not just the whites, but the whites who had money and power, right? Good. Let us look more closely at the old representative system. So how this system actually worked was that there was a governor who was at the head, right? This governor was appointed by the crown, whoever was ruling in Britain at the time, whether it was a king or a queen. Then he had a council. This was a branch of members who were selected by the governor himself to assist in the running of the country. There was also an assembly, right? This consisted of members who were elected from among the white planters and merchants. So the governor, who was the head selected by the crown, he selected a number of councillors, and then an assembly was elected, meaning white planters voted for representatives to sit in the assembly, right? Think of yourself now of living under the old representative system of government, having no representative, no right to vote, not being catered to socially or educationally. Imagine having your leaders ruling in their own interests, right? And they don't even care about you. I bet you would be very miserable, right? Wouldn't you be very miserable? Yes, that was the condition under which our parents or foreparents lived, right? Because most of us watching this video, we are descendants of enslaved Africans, right? Because we understand the history of the Caribbean. So that is how the old representative system worked. In the 18th century now, the Caribbean moved on to, the English-speaking Caribbean, moved on to crown colony government. Having endured the old representative system for over 150 years, in the 1800s, there came a change in the system of governance, right? All the colonies adopted the crown colony system of government. All the colonies except Barbados gave up their elected assemblies. That system of government consisted of the governor, an executive, and a legislative council made up of officials who headed government departments in the colonies, and members were nominated by the governor. Those nominated members of the council never had the executive, legislative, or judicial powers. They only serve as advisors. So as in comparison to the old representative system, the crown colony now, the governor had full authority, right? And he could make decisions on his own. He only had assemblies that were advisors, so they can give him advice, but he doesn't necessarily have to do what they say. The final decision rests squarely at the feet of the governor under crown colony government. So the governor was at the top. He had a council who was responsible for giving advice. Remember, the old representative system worked different, right? Yes. Then now persons wanted their independence. So countries, why I keep saying persons, I am to say countries wanted their independence. So they moved on to constitutional monarchy, right? This is a system where the countries or former colonies became independent. So they wanted to run and direct their own affairs as a country without interference from the crown. During the 20th century, prevailing circumstances gave rise to a political reform in the Caribbean. Those circumstances included universal adult suffrage, we know that is the right to vote, economic depression of the 1930s, so things were bad and the poorer class, they were really suffering. Unemployment, persons couldn't find jobs, and you know, when persons are unemployed, it creates a whole lot of other problems and issues, not only for the poor people, but for the government as well. There were also some other problems. Good. The British government was then willing to grant colonies political independence, right? Many historians believe that a lot of the former colonies no longer serve Britain, right? Britain was benefiting from being owners of these colonies anymore. So Britain was kind of happy to get rid of them. So first countries asked for their independence and Britain said, yes, we are going to give you, I'm going to give you your independence. Because the colonies weren't really benefiting Britain anymore. Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago were the first of the colonies to gain independence from Britain in the year 1962. The other colonies followed suit later years, right? Jamaica is always a trailblazer. I'm not being biased or anything, but I'm just saying, yeah, Jamaica is always a trailblazer, yes. All right, so the granting of political independence therefore meant that the government became responsible for the internal and external affairs of the country. So the countries now getting their independence became adults overnight. So they have to take care of their own affairs and they couldn't depend on the motherland. Sorry, let me not say motherland because motherland is really Africa, but they couldn't really depend on Britain, right? Who actually owned them or who owned them, right? For any assistance anymore. They had to find their own way. So the crown appointed governor was replaced by a locally appointed governor general. This is under constitutional monarchy now. So the governor general represents the crown and is the head of state. When we look at the arms of government, we'll go a little bit deeper into the role of the governor general because his powers are limited and his duties and roles are mainly ceremonial. He's a symbolic representative of the monarch or the crown, and therefore, as I said earlier, has limited powers. Barbados, St. Lucia, Antigua, Jamaica, and some other countries are examples of constitutional monarchies, since the monarch is still head of state. There are some other things that we still use for Britain because we're a constitutional monarchies, even though we run and direct our own affairs, but because of the style of government that we have, once you're a constitutional monarchy, then there's a governor general who is the head of state that represents the crown. He has to sign a bill for it to become law. He appoints the prime minister. He appoints the leader of the opposition. He appoints all the nominated senators and so on and so forth. Now, country said, look here, we want to do away with all aspects of the crown. We don't want to retain anything that reminds us of our former enslavers, right? Or colonizers. So they became sovereign states. So they started to utilize the republicanism style of government. Good. In the republicanism system of government, please do not confuse republicanism in the Caribbean, the Republican Party in the United States of America. Many students confuse the two. They are different, just like how students confuse Dominica with the Dominican Republic. There are two different countries, right? Or two different islands. So please don't confuse them. In the republicanism system of government, the monarch has been replaced as head of state by a president. These countries are called republics. Countries in the Commonwealth Caribbean that are republics include Guyana, and Trinidad and Tobago. These countries were once colonies of Britain. The Commonwealth of Dominica also embraces a republican status, right? This information is old, but recently, a couple of days ago, Barbados has also become a republic. There are two types of republics, or under republicanism, there are two types. You have to pay close attention to this section right now, ladies and gentlemen, because it might be a little bit difficult for some persons to understand, but I want you to pay close attention. Remember, you can always rewind, you can always replay, you can always rewatch this portion of the video because this is important. There are two types of republics in the Caribbean. I hope that you are seeing this on the screen, right? Let me make it a little bit bigger so that you can see it. Yes, I have extended the page and I'm hoping, ladies and gentlemen, that you can actually see it. So there are two types of republics. Good. There is the presidential republic, like for example, Guyana uses this system, and then there's the parliamentary system where Trinidad and Tobago and Dominica uses. Recently, I said that Barbados has now become a republic. Barbados uses the parliamentary system under republicanism, right? So under the presidential system, good, there's an executive president who has full constitutional, why am I saying full constitutional? Who has full executive authority, right? The Constitution gives him this authority. So there's no governor general, right? There's nobody who is head of him, but he operates as the head of the country. Under the parliamentary system now, a president replaces the governor general. So there's a president whose powers are limited and mainly ceremonial. So under the parliamentary system, the president operates just like a governor general. So the president is the head of state, and then now we have the prime minister. Just like in Barbados, I think her name is Dame, I don't remember her name, Dame Sandra something or another. She's the president of Barbados, but she's a titular president. And Prime Minister Mia Mottley is the Prime Minister of Barbados. So they use a parliamentary system. All right, if you're not so clear on it, let's read a little bit on the breakdown. Let's explain the diagram a little bit more. The diagram gives an overview of the two types of republic in the Caribbean. One type is based on the presidential system, while the other is based on the parliamentary system. Republic of Guyana uses the presidential system, where the head of state is also the head of government. So under the presidential system, the head of state is the president, right? And he has full executive authority. This therefore means that Guyana has an executive president who has full constitutional powers. Even though he has full constitutional power, this doesn't mean that he can do whatever he wants to do. There is still checks and balances in any society that is democratic. So the leader can't just go off on a tangent and do whatever he or she pleases. No. Trinidad and Tobago and the Commonwealth of Dominica are governments based on the parliamentary system. Remember, we say under the parliamentary system, there is a president who is the head of state. His role is mainly ceremonial and he has limited constitutional powers. And he's referred sometimes to as a titular president, right? The prime minister, therefore, has the executive authority or the executive powers as the head of state. Two types of republics. Let's go again. There's a presidential republic where the president functions as the prime minister and has full executive authority. There's the parliamentary republic where there is a president that is the head of state, and then there is the prime minister who has full executive authority. Head of state under the parliamentary system, president whose power is limited and mainly ceremonial duties and roles. What? I'm sure that is clear as crystal for you. Now let's look at a comparison between the parliamentary system and the presidential system. Below is an incomplete table making comparison between the two systems. You are going to complete the table by filling out the appropriate responses, right? So parliamentary system, presidential system. So there's a parliamentary system on my left, there's a presidential system on my right. So let's look at the comparison. Under the parliamentary system, there is a titular president whose roles are ceremonial, right? And he has limited constitutional powers. He or she, I should say. The presidential system now has an executive president with full executive authority. That's a comparison. So there are two more slots that you are going to fill out. You are going to fill out those slots in the comment section. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope that you would have learned something about the systems of government that were used in the Caribbean and still being used, and you'll be able to, explain to somebody else, whether it's a friend, your parent, or your teacher, right, about the different systems of government present in the Caribbean. I hope that I have taught and I have made this a little bit clearer for you guys to understand. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and also watch the ads. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Goodbye. Have a nice day.